off air. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay. Three,
You want
two.
me to ask you?
Yeah. Ask me what I'd like to express to people about, or just something like that about, or you can say what it what do you think is important
Well,
about prepping, and you can ask me, and then I'll ask you.
okay. So I'm gonna ask you first. Okay.
Okay.
Wait. Before we do this, I honestly think that we need to switch it up. Instead of mentioning when the shit hits the fan, we focus on prepping. When the shit hits the fan is an extreme scenario. That prepping.
Listen, it's just a title, man. It's the title. You can take it however you want. Like
I
people
know,
people
man. All right, fine. We're gonna put prepping.
you define it. You define it when the shit hits a fan like that. Many other people it's just a saying. It's just a saying.
You think it's
So you
equal?
can many
Like,
people define that it's just a saying. When the shit hits a fan, it doesn't mean if I want to say apocalypse, then many people would think, yeah, okay. But
all right.
when you say when the shit hits a fan, it doesn't mean that. If you go to like the prepping boards and stuff, it doesn't mean some crazy shit. It can mean that, but it means just prepare for any situation. I mean anything that is going to mean problems to your survival, things that you can actually prepare for. That's I don't know. To me, that's all it means. It doesn't have to mean something crazy. To me, it's just a funny word, you know, that will attract people to the title. We don't have to go into detail
The definition.
about the definition of it. It
No,
doesn't matter.
I agree. I
To me,
agree.
it doesn't matter. Okay.
You're right. I agree. Okay. So why don't we go? Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Real short definition. I'm gonna ask you. Then you're gonna ask me about when the shit hits the fan and prepping. And we'll make it real short and sweet. All right. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Three, two, one. All right. So Jason, uh, when the shit hits the fan and prepping, uh, what do these words mean to you, man?
Well, when the shit hits the fan is kind of like a funny term that people use, but it's also a term that these preppers use to describe any kind of emergency. It could be a short-term emergency, like a natural disaster, just your power going out for a few days. Some people even define it as something like you lose your job for a period of time, or an illness, just something that you need to be prepared for that knocks you out of your normal life, your normal, comfortable life. Prepping to me is just being prepared for these situations, for emergencies. I don't like the the whole the whole labeling of preppers as these crazy people that are out to build bunkers and to survive a nuclear winter and the zombie apocalypse. I think that's kind of has been fed by the mainstream media and maybe Discovery Channel or wherever the fuck they have that show, the Doomsday Preppers, where they have these very 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 strange people on there that are preparing for zombie apocalypses and shit like that. To me, that's just kind of marginalizing. As you were saying before, that's just marginalizing normal behavior that your average everyday person should be doing. And to me, your average everyday person should be preparing for these situations because they're predictable, that they're going to happen. Maybe not everyone's going to be live through a hurricane or an earthquake or something like that, but at some point in your life you're going to live through some kind of unexpected emergency that hits, or and I think more importantly, some kind of situation that that we can actually predict that's going to happen, like something like a financial collapse, which I think for sure is going to happen in this country, probably within 10 or 15 years. Um, And I think it's very important for people to be prepared for this stuff. What about you, Arrows? What do you what do you think? What does the shit hit the fan and prepping mean to you?
All right, so no, like you said, man, prepping is just being ready for uh, any situation that you consider to be important enough to either avoid or be prepared to handle. Uh, when the shit hits the fan, I think that that's an extreme scenario. That's for some people, an extreme scenario could be the loss of power. So for them, that's a when the shit hits the fan kind of scenario. Uh, Personally, I don't view that as I don't view one of those scenarios to qualify as when the shit hits the fan because I've been prepared. I've dealt with power loss, so I don't want to shit. I don't want to make somebody else's necessity needs seem trivial. Some people need electricity more than others. Some people are dependent, have grown accustomed to certain things that some other people don't need. Um, so prepping just means that you choose what's important to you and you prepare for those scenarios, whether it be preparing for something that you know is going to happen or something that you believe is about to happen in the near future. Uh, then, when people start to prepare for things that most other people consider to be unlikely events, that's when we start getting the word preppers, where people get marginalized into a certain, almost like underclass of people that are extremists in certain views of what may happen. Uh, but the reality is that certain views that people hold that they tend to prepare for, the ones that are referred to as preppers, are scenarios, events that have had happened in the past, things that are likely to happen in the future, but people rarely accept as either an eventuality or a possibility. Economic collapse. When somebody prepares for banks to seize their assets, their money, uh, there's plenty of other people that view that as an extreme. Preparing for that scenario, some of the people view that as an extreme uh, action.
Yeah,
Me and
even
you, of
though
course, you don't. Me and you see that as
yeah.
something that's more than possible, but very likely to happen in the near future. Not everybody views it that way. When we talk about Bitcoin, when we talk about gold, silver, when we talk about putting our money in something other than a bank, a lot of people really don't respond too well to that kind of idea. They either don't understand it, they think you're fucking nuts, uh, or they just ignore you altogether. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I think what I would if I were to talk to those people, I would like to try to impress upon them how important it is for them to prepare. And these are not, just crazy events. Like they think, oh well, I don't need to be prepared for these. I don't need to be like those preppers on Discovery Channel. I don't need all this stuff. Those people are crazy. Why would I? What, yeah, I believe in guns, but why does anyone need more than one gun and all that? Why does someone need all the ammo? Why does someone need all that food? Well, these people are just ignorant. They're ignorant of history, ignorant of history, and they don't have any imagination uh, that would lead them to think about things that could happen in their lifetime. So I would like to try to convince them that these things are not only plausible to happen, but very likely that some of these things are going to happen. I mean, it's very likely that you're going to be in some kind of natural disaster in your lifetime. It's also some of the worldwide things, or some of the financial things or problems with government are very predictable because they usually follow a certain line. So a lot of those things are predictable. You don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but you can be fairly sure that one of these things are going to happen. So you can be prepared for some of these things without going crazy like some of these people. But a lot of people don't even want to think about it. They don't want to think about it. They're comfortable in their lives. They don't want to think about a time when they can't withdraw money from the bank. They don't want to think about a time when the city doesn't give them water or electricity, or there's martial law going on. They don't want to think about that. So um, there's not so much you can do to help people that just refuse to think about it. But for people that would like to think about it, I think we can give them some information and get them at least in the mindset that they won't be helpless when the shit hits the fan.
So basically, well, prepping is different for everybody. Uh, it's like a lot of words where people just hold different definitions of what it is to be prepared for something. So you can actually take the word prepping and preppers and separate them. They're not one and the same. The word preppers, I think, has gained a reputation or a definition of referring to people who prepare for extreme scenarios that are unlikely to happen, right? Uh, that's the common view of a prepper. Like you mentioned earlier about the show, I don't remember if it was the History Channel, but uh,
One of those fucking shows,
yeah,
where
yeah,
where aliens, somehow the History Channel, History Channel tells us about how aliens built everything and
yeah.
all this, made our DNA and all this fucking bullshit.
No,
The
but so
the History Channel.
you would agree that you have to separate the two words. Somebody who prepares, prepping, just in general. It's a concept of just being prepared for a scenario that you think is likely to happen, right? But preppers, the word has been, I wouldn't say destroyed, just manipulated to refer to certain individuals who prepare for uh, things like economic collapse or martial law. Uh, Something that a lot of people refuse to believe is even possible when we've already witnessed it. Even during Katrina, uh, we've witnessed concentration
Shit.
camps here in the United
Shit.
States.
Oh yeah, it's shit. Even during hurricanes here in Florida, and I don't know, what is it, 2005 or something like that?
Yeah,
We had martial law here. We had curfews. People were going to jail because they're outside after a certain time at night. We had National Guard here on the street, and look during Hurricane Katrina, we had gun confiscation, cops going crazy, shooting people, busting down their doors. There was no constitutional rights. There was no, nothing. Anytime emergency like this happens, all bets are off. Nothing's gonna work as it does normally. So you're not gonna get the normal stores are not gonna be open. The power is not gonna be coming in normally. The water is not gonna be coming in normally. So I would say that even just your average everyday natural disaster very quickly the shit can hit the fan for anyone that's not prepared. So what I'm saying with that is that you know you could have someone without water for 2 or 3 days, and to them, that's shit hitting the fan right there. If they don't have power, they don't have water, that's the shit hitting the fan for them. So, if you prep for that, it's could be just like a camping trip or something.
So when the shit hits the fan, it's subjective, really. It all depends on
Yeah. Yeah, and it
certain
doesn't have to be
individuals' preparedness.
it doesn't have to be something crazy, like zombies or
Fucking
worldwide,
alien.
or a fucking deluge from God. Alien attack.
You know what, man? You know, this fucking defining words, man, can get crazy because you know. So just prepping in general. Why do you think it's important, man? Just to prepare. But whatever you feel that you need to prepare for, why is it just important?
I think it's important because it can save your life. Uh, it's important because just the act of being prepared for something in the future can help your mindset and can just help your quality of life. It will allow you to live freer right now if you know you're prepared for certain situations. You can live freer in an unfree world that we have now, and like I said, it may someday save your life. What about you? Why do you think prepping is important?
Look, man, that's the question right there, man. Why I think prepping is important. Two things. Anybody who doesn't consider preparing for something is an idiot. We all do. We all prepare for something at some point in time. So it doesn't matter what you believe is likely to happen or unlikely to happen. The idea of preparing is simply important, and I think there's a reason for that. Your needs to be able to find or treat water, to acquire water, to acquire food, to build a shelter. These basic needs, man, are important. I think that when you lose the desire to, or the ability to meet those needs in the time of need, whether it be a natural disaster, war, then you you're no longer free. There's a relationship between them. You know what I mean? Um, when you're no longer relying on on the state, a corporation, and other individuals, you have the option of being self-sufficient. If you don't have to rely on somebody to provide you food, if you don't have to rely on somebody to provide you water, whether it's an individual, whether it's a state, and it there's a freedom to that. There's I think there's a desire in everybody to want to be free, right? But in order to be free, you have to be self-sufficient. In order to be self-sufficient, you have to be prepared for things that either may likely occur or unlikely to occur. Um, but I think there's a desire. I think there's a I think there's a movement, or not a movement, but a pause for a minute.
Okay.
Pause, just pause. Hold on. Okay. I think there's an attempt to view anybody who wants to be independent of the state or independent in general. I think there's a desire to view them as outcasts. Uh, Shit, I lost my train of thought, man. Hold on. All right, all right. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Three, two, one. Um, Prepping is directly related to freedom. The freedom to have the choice of interaction with other people. When you don't have the freedom to uh, choose whether you want to interact with someone or not, then you're not free. Uh, Currently, most people aren't free because they require water from the cities they live in, states they live in, food from the companies that provide them food. Very few people know how to grow their own food. We see farms disappearing rapidly, right? Uh, I think that the desire to want to be self-sufficient is directly related to wanting to be free. Uh, and that's not to say that you can't associate with groups of people. I think there's benefits to associating with groups of people. But when you don't have a choice to disassociate yourself from those groups, then you're no longer free. So when somebody desires to want to be prepared, a prepper, even though I don't like the word, they're directly trying to, it's a manifestation of the desire to want to be self-sufficient, right? And being self-sufficient means being independent of others. When you're no longer independent of others, you're a slave. You're a fucking mutt. You're somebody's bitch. And most people are somebody's bitch. Most people are the state's bitch. That's what it is. Uh, there is, there is interest in you not being independent. That's why one of the reasons I believe the word preppers was coined in order to marginalize a group of people who want to be free and who understand what freedom is. Freedom is having the choice to either associate with some people or not. Fuck.
That's a good definition, because
Well,
I would say there's very, very few people that could get by or even want to get by on their own. However, the more choices, like you said, the more choice you have in the matter, the more options you have for power, for water, for food, for shelter, the more free you are. The less you rely on these government-enabled monopolies, then the freer you are. Would you agree with that?
nah, it's exactly what I was trying to say. You just said it better. So let me try to
Yeah.
simplify this again. I work backwards. Uh, Nobody would deny that freedom and is, I think, the goal. I mean, we wave flags around talking about freedom. Most people don't understand what real freedom is. I think that people who prepare understand what freedom is. It's the ability to take care of yourself, to meet your basic needs. And we all know what the basic needs are: water, food, shelter, for some clothing. For some other people don't really give a shit about clothing, but and yeah, I want to add that defense is probably equally important. The ability to defend yourself against other people who want to take those freedoms away from you. The freedom for you to take care of yourself. Um, when you rely, when people start to rely too heavily on others to take care of them, they they lose the ability to choose whether they want to associate with that group. Uh, and when you no longer have a choice, you no longer have freedom. So freedom is directly related to choice. As a matter of fact, I would say that freedom is choice. Another way to define freedom is the ability to make a choice. When you can't choose to not participate in a group because you don't have the ability to take care of yourself, to meet your basic needs, then you're fundamentally a slave. You're basically a slave. You're choosing to be a slave by choosing not to learn how to take care of yourself. Does that make sense?
No, that does make sense. I wouldn't label it slavery per se, just because
It's voluntary.
it is voluntary. However, you're a fucking idiot if you're dependent. I mean, on people, especially if you're a fucking adult who has the ability to choose to be more independent. If if you just want to be dependent on others or one certain monopoly or the government for your whole life, you're gonna get in trouble with that, because especially during these disasters, during these natural disasters, during these black swan events with stock market crashes or financial system collapses, the centralized systems do not do well during this shit. So if you have any kind of natural disaster, if you have a centralized way where everyone gets their power, centralized service that everyone gets their power from, a lot of times those don't do too very well. Don't do well during a disaster, because monopolies and centrally planned, they don't make decisions right. They collapse easy, and they're not very flexible. So you have a lot of problems if you rely on these government-enabled monopolies.
Hey, I'm gonna try to redefine what prepping means to me, because I know that I started to ramble a little bit. But go ahead and ask me one more time. Do the countdown and ask me about what prepping
Okay.
means. I know, man. I'm sorry, man. This might take 2.5 hours this time, but I'll
Okay,
get.
but okay. My only problem is that we're gonna get down to we're gonna start talking about prepping, and then 30 seconds later, you're gonna be like, all right, I'm too drunk.
No, 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 no. I've only had 3 beers, man. All right, so
Okay. All right.
wait, I'll make it short, but I got it.
No,
I
it's
got it.
good. It's good.
All right, go ahead.
As long as you're good, as long as you understand that the definitions of the words are actually not that important, because it
Okay.
doesn't really matter.
No,
It's
but
mostly
ask me
like a
why
it's
prepping is
mostly
important.
like a title for what we're talking about, which we haven't even talked about yet. That's what I'm saying. Um, you want me to ask you why you think prepping is important?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. All right. So, Eros, why do you think prepping is important?
Well, all right. I believe prepping is important because it allows you to be independent of a system that most people, in my opinion, have grown way too dependent on. We rely on the state to provide our water. We rely on companies to provide our food. So preparing is the ability to remove the dependency to these organizations and be self-sufficient. You become self-sufficient groups or not. And when you have a choice, you're free. When you no longer have that choice, you're no longer free. So I think there's a deliberate attempt to demonize. I think demonize is too heavy of a word, but marginalize might be too light. But definitely there's an attempt to reclassify anyone who has a desire to be independent of the state to be seen as a outcast or be seen as an extremist. Uh, and there is a deliberate attempt to make sure that people do not prepare. Uh, I
All
want to give.
right. Okay.
No, I paused for a
Yeah.
moment because I want to give an example. So that's why I made a pause. But I want to give an example.
Okay.
So an example is here in Florida. Uh, Hurricanes are a common occurrence. That's what we're known for. That and oranges. But it, I find it very odd that most people here in Florida uh, are very poorly. I mean, just fucking horribly prepared for hurricanes. I remember in Puerto Rico, 1989. I was 8 years old. Hurricane Hugo hit. Have I ever told you this story?
I don't think so.
I'm gonna start from the beginning. Hurricane Hugo hit in 1989. Hit Puerto Rico and the Caribbean islands, and it ended up in South Carolina. And I remember clearly one of the worst parts about the hurricane was not the damage that it did, but the fact that it knocked out the water for the entire city that I lived in, Fajardo. And I remember water trucks having to drive by every other day. It wasn't daily, but every other day, the trucks drove by. People would come out of their homes with buckets to collect water. All right. So something as simple as having a water tank, uh, something as small as 50 gallons uh, in your home, you would think that would be something that would be commonplace. You would think that having a water tank in your home would be something that you would see everywhere, especially in a place that's prone to get hit by hurricanes that usually knocks out electricity and water, one of the most important necessities. And I would guarantee you that, dude, I would guarantee you that most people don't even know how to extract water from their water heaters here in Florida. That if the water went out right now and you had no water available, you had a full water heater, most people won't even have the ability to fucking extract the water from the water heater. They don't understand how it works. It's some fucking device in the garage that warms up water for them. And I know I'm going off topic here. I'm actually talking to you now. It's actually kind of ridiculous, right? Um, most homes have water heaters that hold up, I don't know, 20, 30 gallons of water, right? Uh, but nobody knows how to fucking. Most people don't even understand how to fucking get water out of it. Anyways, sorry, man.
No,
It
that's a
was it was
good
a weird.
that's a good thing to think of, especially when we're talking about water for, when we start talking about potable water, because, if the shit hits the fan, you're probably gonna have some potable water in your water heater. So that's a good thing to know.
Well, I mean that's a good actually segue to the next thing we're going to talk about, the short-term unpredictable shit hits the fan situations, like hurricanes, earthquakes, uh, tornadoes, floods. Floods are common here in Florida too, man. These these things that happen regularly, and we still see that people are horribly unprepared for these things that happen fucking almost monthly, man. They happen so regularly that that we have sciences studying them, but people refuse. Almost like there's a a deliberate attempt to not prepare. It gets to the point where you have to wonder whether people are deliberately not preparing because either they expect the state to take care of them, or they either they're in denial, they believe that these things don't. A I don't know what to call it, man. You know, feminists have their fucking words for things, right? They have rape culture. Well, fine. I guess we can call it dependency culture or welfare state. Where people are constantly dependent on the state to provide them with resources, and that's fine if you sign up for that. That's okay. But if that's what you desire, but that kind of makes you weak, doesn't it? Makes you it makes you vulnerable when when an individual can't even provide water for himself. When it arises, whether the need is because you choose to remove yourself from the group, or whether something happens like a natural disaster, something unavoidable, something unpredictable. When people have that inability and they choose to have that inability, it's like they almost prefer not to be burdened with the responsibility of taking care of themselves. You think that? Let me ask you this, man. Do you think people are conditioned or indoctrinated into believing that it's not in their interest to take care of themselves? Or I don't know how to word it, but almost that it's better to have someone else take care of you and for you to learn how to take care of yourself.
Oh yeah, I think we have a complete indoctrination culture of dependency, and the state loves it that way. And people, people that don't know what's going on, they're like, oh sure, yeah, less responsibility for me. Like they don't understand what freedom is. They don't understand that freedom means responsibility. So if you don't really know about freedom, you don't really crave freedom, and then you really don't take responsibility for these things, and you willingly give it up to the state or other monopoly organizations or whoever, and I think people just don't like to worry about these things. They don't like to think about these things. It's the same as, people don't like to worry about death. They don't like to worry about death of anyone in their family. They don't like to worry about any situations like this, any emergencies. They just rather someone else handle it, worry about it. So I think it's very pervasive in that. I think that the reason this topic is so important for voluntarists, anarchists, libertarians is that they understand that they don't need the state, and they understand that they need to take responsibility, and they like freedom. They understand that freedom is responsibility. So I think it's very important for someone that loves liberty to be prepared for situations like this, to be able to live and continue their lives without depending on the state.
But uh, that's what this it's a paradox. Not a paradox, but it's strange that the people who uh, talk the most about freedom are the statists, people who believe that the state will provide them with freedom, uh, freedom of choice. But in reality, it's the complete opposite. The state takes freedoms by taking the ability, and not taking the ability. I don't want to say taken because people willingly give it up. The desire to care for themselves, they they relinquish or they give that up to the state. They say, here, man, give me water, give me food, take care of me. And what do they give in exchange, man? A life of servitude. Because at that point, they don't have the choice. If people don't have the ability to produce and acquire like the most basic fucking things of life, water, food, shelter, when an individual can't fucking do that for themselves, they're not anything. They're weak. They're not, I hate to use the word slave because, like you said, uh, it's a voluntary act, but it's if you look at it and you say that a dog Does he voluntarily sit when you want to give him a treat because he does it by choice or because you've conditioned him to do so, right? So have people been conditioned to believe that I maybe it's true. People have been conditioned to believe that self-sufficiency, the desire to want to take care of themselves, is wrong. And that's evident by the fact that you see people who want to prepare for certain eventualities, certain scenarios. They're viewed, man, as outcasts. They're viewed as extremists. So people who desire to be prepared for a time where there may not be food for a while, or a time where collecting or acquiring water, man, might be a little bit more difficult than it is now, which is not at all, right? But people like that are viewed as extremists, to be feared, to be demonized, to be mocked, and that shit bothers me, man, because it's so contrary to what freedom is. But the same people who demonize and mock people who are prepared are the same people screaming about how free we fucking are. And I don't know, dude. That drives me fucking nuts. That drives
Well,
me crazy, man.
I think you did. You definitely touched on a very important point.
What's that?
That, well, the indoctrination of slaves. And I think that's probably, slave indoctrination 101 is to make them dependent. And you see that in welfare, you see that with the infrastructure that's built. You see it with all these things. They try to, food stamps, welfare. The state really tries to make themselves necessary, to make people dependent on them. And the more people are dependent on them, the more they're needed, the more power they have, and the longer they keep that power. So I think it's very imperative on every person that believes in freedom, that wants to live a freer life, to be able, have the skills, just have the ability, the skills to live and not be dependent on these systems of government and these government-enabled monopolies. So I think you did have a good point there.
Well, something else I want to add is, when you start talking about social control, brainwashing, manipulation, you start getting into the realm of conspiracy theorists, right? But I think that's bogus, man. Not to try to define conspiracy theory, but because that's a whole nother fucking chapter. That's a whole nother episode, right? But let me give you this example. If you were to take someone and put them in a survival situation, naturally, just naturally, through the body's mechanisms, they would first look for water, right? They would have the desire, by thirst, to acquire water. Then, when it starts to rain, when it starts to get too sunny, the heat starts to hit you, you want to shelter, right? Then you start to get fucking hungry. You want food. These are natural processes. So I think that when people abandon the ability to acquire these basic needs on themselves, when they give those up, and they ask, or they relinquish them to somebody else to take care of those needs, that's a deliberate attempt. That's not something that happens naturally. That's something that happens through manipulation, through generations of control. And I seriously fucking doubt that people willingly or naturally give up these tendencies to want to be self-sufficient. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, and I think it's a byproduct of these state-enabled monopolies, like the monopoly on energy, monopoly on mostly food, transportation. Um, all these monopolies, roads, transportation, everything you can think of. The most necessary things are the things that the government is trying to make a monopoly on. And what the monopoly does is, so I think it conditions them to be dependent on that monopoly when the monopoly is all they know. So I think it can be a natural byproduct, but maybe you don't have government agents sitting around saying, how can we get them more dependent? Say, well, no, it's more of a natural consequence of central planning and monopolies. So when you have it, people are going to get dependent, and people are going to get stupider and fucking, just not able to take care of themselves when they're dependent on government.
No, it's funny because you mentioned something about it being natural, a natural by. I think that when people talk about, for example, Monsanto, the the biotech company that everybody believes is trying to control the food so they can control people. It it doesn't matter what their intentions are. I think that it, their intentions could simply be they're trying to protect their interests. They're trying to protect, like any company tries to protect their interest. Uh, but in the process, it gives them the power to control the food supply. So Monsanto, by genetically modifying certain plants to not reproduce, well, to create seeds that don't reproduce, pretty much they produce sterile plants. Uh, they're not necessarily trying to control the world. They're not trying to control the population. That could be an extreme view. You can't pretend to know their intentions, but you can directly see that by their attempt to control their interest by producing these plants, it gives them the ability to control the food supply. Uh,
Oh
it
yeah,
doesn't
and we
matter. It
can.
doesn't matter if it's intentional or not. The point that I'm trying to make is, it doesn't matter. Like you said, it doesn't matter if there's a group of men sitting around rubbing their hands together, trying to rule the world by saying to themselves that they need to control the food supply, and they're doing it intentionally just out of pure evil. It doesn't fucking matter what their intentions are. It's the result. That, for example, Monsanto, by attempting to protect its interest and protecting its genetically modified plants, they make them so that they're not easily they can't easily reproduce or can't reproduce at all. They are either on purpose or inadvertently uh, gaining control of the world's food supply, especially if now uh, soon you're not going to be able to see foods that come out on the market where you can just grab a seed and grow a plant. Soon, most of our food, if not all of our food, is going to be genetically modified to not reproduce. And the finding a seed that can grow a plant is going to be uh, more difficult than fucking acid nowadays, man. Jesus, you can't even fucking find acid anywhere. You'll probably be able to find acid a lot easier than you'll be able to find a fucking plant seed that can grow a fucking tomato or a fucking lemon. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we're gonna probably do a whole another show on conspiracy theories and
Oh yeah,
conspiracy theorists,
yeah, we gotta cover that.
because yeah, because they're I would say probably a majority of the liberty movement, liberty community, really despises these conspiracy theorists because well, they think they're crazy, and they think they it makes them look bad, and they jump to conclusions and all that. Well, my opinion on that is, it might be right on that, but some of these conspiracy theorists are either 100% right, or they're right in what they observe. They observe, they can see what's going on. They see what's going on in the world. They just sometimes they kind of get the backroom machinations wrong a little bit. Because they don't maybe they don't understand economics as well as some people. They don't understand the politics of power as well as some people. They don't understand how this stuff can get together without some grand new world order, horrible alien, whatever, controlling everything. So they just assume that that's what's happening. So they have no other theory to explain it. But there is a lot of value to these conspiracy theories because they describe things that really are happening. Like you said,
Yeah.
Monsanto they are centralizing the food supply. They are making people dependent on them. They are making seeds, heirloom seeds that reproduce, scarce. They're actually using the government to put smaller farmers out of business, to sue small farmers for intellectual property violations for having some of their seeds on their land. Some of the shit's ridiculous. Like they filed patents.
I'm listening, man. I'm here. Just give me a second, all right?
Okay. They filed patents for seeds that they created altering DNA. So basically, DNA was their patent, their intellectual property patent. Shit like that is ridiculous.
Pause for a minute, man. I'll be right back. Go on.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to get into some of the specifics of prepping, and I kind of
Let me ask you first. I'm gonna ask you a question, all right?
Okay.
All right. I didn't want to take a full bathroom break, so I had to pee in a bottle.
What?
Yeah. It was right there. It was a bottle.
Jesus.
That's how important this show is.
All right, I'm keeping that on here.
Oh shit, you're still recording.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so back to the fucking subject of prepping. So, me and you both know this shit's important. It doesn't matter what you believe you need to prepare for, but just the basic idea that preparing is about being independent of others or taking care of whatever you consider to be your needs, right? So whatever your needs are, making sure that you meet those needs every day, when it's a regular day, or whenever, when eventually there's a crisis, right? So preparing just is important as a concept, just not forgetting that being prepared is important. So let me ask you, what are the most important things to know, to have, or the most important things to prep?
Well, I, for the purposes of this discussion here, I'd like to break it down into two different categories. One would be short term things. What you need in a short term, and with this, I would include natural disasters, things that are just gonna knock you out for 3 to 5 days. Something that it's unpredictable. Usually your natural disasters, your emergencies, and things like that. You don't know, you never know when they're going to happen, but chances are one of these things are going to happen to you. Hurricanes, storms, earthquakes. You can even put in robbery or violence into this. You know, Robbery being looters or the cops doing a no-knock raid and then confiscating shit in your house because your neighbors, they got the wrong address, or your neighbors said the wrong thing, or somebody said, "Oh my God, he's got a lot of guns and food and blah 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 in his house." Um,
Hey, let
shit,
me say something about that. Yeah, let me say something about that. Like, there seems to be a lot of accidents happening with police entering the wrong home, and it doesn't seem to matter whether they make a mistake. They're never held accountable for those mistakes. But even when they make a mistake, and it's clear that they make a mistake, they 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 try to justify it by finding anything, any crime that's being committed at that moment, while they're making a mistake, while they're either violating somebody's constitutional rights, whatever the fuck that means, or just somebody's rights as a human being. They use any justification to rob you of any wealth or any dignity too, man. Because they not only do they just take what you've earned through work and time that you've put in, they make you accept it. They force you to comply. Of course, they threaten you with weapons and they say you have no choice. I want to make sure that I get this out there because it's in my fucking head, man. We can use it for another show, but it's the idea that you are something to be controlled. You are something that has no choice in how you live, even when you're in your own fucking home, even when you're in your own home. If you desire to stay in your fucking home and never leave, right? Never interact with the community. You don't have that choice. You don't even have the choice to not interact with other people. You don't even have the choice to say that you rather not participate in the system. Non-compliance is viewed as not only immoral, illegal, but something that you could be punished for. Usually, it depends on the situation, but it could be as bad as death. Because when you get shot by a cop, there's always a justification, and even if there's a reprimand for the police, it's rarely is what's the word that I'm looking for? It's rarely equates to the crime that the police have committed, and I think that's one of the worst injustices. I mean, maybe we should have put this in the other video, that these individuals, and this is a thought that I was having earlier today, it's very common for police officers to get a lighter sentence because of, quote, the work or the service that they have provided to the state or the city, which, if you follow that logic, that means that the justice system works on a credit-based system. That means if you do a certain amount of good, you can get away with a certain amount of evil and crime, right? If you're a cop, of course. That doesn't work if you're a citizen. But if you're a cop,
Yeah, if you put on
you're
your
gonna murder.
suit, your magic cop suit with a badge.
All of a sudden you're no longer viewed as a member of the of a society that needs to abide by the laws that you're supposedly there to uphold. Now you're actually in what's more of a monetary type of system, like an economic system, where you earn credit through your service of whatever the fuck that means as a cop, right? Your service, uh, and then when you violate the very laws that you enforce, you are you get time served. You get credit for all the good that you've done. You know what I mean? You are, like people say, above the law, but not really above the law. But you represent something completely different than the law. You know what I mean? You're on a different level now. You're a cop, and you almost, it's like people accept the fact that you're another human being and you're capable of doing the same evil, but because you wear a badge, you can be forgiven a lot easier than anyone else. Even
Well,
though,
like George Orwell said in Animal Farm, some animals are more equal than others. We're all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
yeah, I like that. That's exactly my point, man, that I was trying to make. And I'll end with this, man. It it's so confusing. It's so insane that the very people that we give this power to, the people who are in the position to abuse and get away with it with such a light sentence or such a light punishment, are held to such a lower standard when it comes to what we consider justice. When we want to punish the Judge Murphy, you know, you would think that it would be the opposite. You would think that anybody in a position to abuse, in an obvious position to abuse power, when the abuse becomes apparent, or when evidence of abuse is presented, they would be held, and their punishment would be more severe than anyone else because they had the power, right? You would think that by giving them the power, that a way to keep them in check would be to let them know, let them understand that if they violate that use of power, that they will be held to a worse punishment. I mean, the punishment will be significantly more severe because their power is so the power between them and the citizenry is so imbalanced. You would think that the punishment, the same concept that we use, the idea that a punishment is a deterrent to a crime. Well, then a punishment for a police officer who has the ability to commit a crime and get away with it, the deterrent for them should be even greater. It should be death for theft. If a police officer goes into your home and shoots your dog, for example, that motherfucker should go to fucking jail and spend the rest of his fucking life in prison or die. That's
Yeah,
the idea. I mean,
we could do a whole fucking episode, probably
I mean,
five episodes
that was
on
in my
law
head.
enforcement.
I know, man. Dude, that was in my head from today. It bothers me that people don't view, that they don't see. They're so quick to justify a cop's action when in reality they should be burning them at the stake, man. They should be fucking crucifying someone who has been entrusted to with so much fucking control over other people. But dude, why do people just simply just give up and justify this shit?
It's
Like,
the worship of authority. They worship authority.
but it goes beyond worship. Worship is one thing, but it's more like priests.
Yeah, it's a religion. It is. It's a worship.
They get caught doing what they do, whatever it is they do. You know what they do. You know what rabbis do.
Oh yeah.
They get caught doing these things, and everybody is so quick to defend them. And do you think that has something to do with cognitive dissonance? They don't want to believe that the people they entrust with so much power are capable of doing such things. You know what I mean? But it's insane because the reason they are placed in that power is because they believe, and I believe this, that most people believe human beings are inherently evil. They're inherently they're self-centered. They look out for themselves and they fuck other people over. Kim has that idea. Kim believes that's just the nature of people. To be evil, then they need to be controlled by other evil people, and they don't see the. Hey, what was that quote a long time ago? You told me about if all men were angels, we wouldn't need government.
I think it was actually, who the hell said that? It wasn't John Adams. It was it doesn't matter. But
No, how did the quote go?
the quote went, "If all men were angels, we wouldn't need government." You know, which is fucking retarded.
Yeah.
Because if all men, if men aren't angels, why are you going to elevate some of them and put them in charge over everyone else? And, you know, it's fucking ridiculous.
That immediately creates a division of class where some people are viewed as authority without any merit, without any kind of rationale as to why they get elevated to a position of authority. This idea of the word authority is so fucking nonsense, bro. Anyways, all right, we'll stop there. I'll get back to this. I'll ask you this. I'm sorry, man. I'll ask you this.
We're not even past the introduction yet.
Ah, fuck it. All right. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna redo the question. All right. All right. We're talking about short-term and unpredictable shit hits the fan situation, right? Basic needs. What's more important? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I was just gonna go ahead and say, you know, just give a brief explanation of what we're talking about, and then start with the most important things, which is number one, potable water. You know, these are like near-term things that you should worry about for some kind of, I know you don't like the term, but shit is a fan situation for a couple days. You know, hurricanes is a perfect.
All right. So, all right. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So we're talking about being prepared, and I think for most people, a reasonable expectation of what to prepare for is things that commonly happen. Obviously, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. So, for the majority of people, I think it's important to know. Shit, man. Give me a second, all right? I gotta take a piss.
All right, I'm gonna take a
Sorry,
piss.
man. Sorry. I've been trying to hold it, man. I can't. I don't want to see the bottle again. All right.
All right, you feel better?
All right. Give me a second, man.
Make sure I'm on
Get my
here.
shit right. Don't worry about it. All right. So, we're talking about more realistic scenarios that we believe most people, if not everyone, needs to consider preparing for, right? That's what.
Oh yeah, these are short-term situations, things that could happen for a couple of days. It could be blizzards, hurricanes, earthquakes, what have you, just natural disasters, things that could knock out your power for a couple of days or your water or whatever. I mean, we're also talking about theft. We're talking about maybe the ATMs going out for a couple of days. Just people are very people things that every single person, no matter who you are, should be prepared for. And I would say number one on this list is potable, drinkable water. That's the number one thing. Your average human can only function normally for a couple of days, for a few days, without water. And you'll die pretty soon. You get organ failure and die not too long after that. So it's very important to do that. It's very, very important to get drinkable water because there are many. Because even if you drink the water and you're hydrated, you can get many different illnesses from non-sanitary water. So you do need to do that. So Eros, what are some of the ways that you can prepare to make sure that you have potable water when you have some kind of disaster that happens? What would you say?
Well, it's always been and I've told you this before. It's always been a surprise that you don't see uh, water storage containers in homes. It's something that's common uh, here in Florida. Maybe it's common in a lot of other places around the country. I don't know, but most places that I've seen don't prepare for situations like this where they don't have a water storage like a tank. Um, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that most people, if not all homes, don't have water tanks. But at least people should be aware of simple things that they can do to store water. If it's something predictable, like a hurricane, uh, most people prepare by simply going to the store and buying water. That's good, but chances are that you have thousands of other people who are just as unprepared as you are and are going to the same store. And this happens every time you see people run to the store and there's nothing left on the shelves. There's no water left, and you know, like I said, I've always been surprised that people are not better prepared for a water shortage, considering how important having water is. So the main thing is have a water tank or have a plan in place where you can actually, if given enough time, get enough water in your bathtubs and your sinks. And this is advice that we get all the time from the news. But no, I think water tanks the most important thing that I'm surprised I don't we don't see more often in people's homes. The ability to filter water, water filters, even if you don't have a water tank. If you can find a water source, here in Florida, there's water everywhere. You can filter water, and hold on.
Yeah, yeah, I would say, yeah, drinkable water is definitely the most important thing, and it's actually the easiest thing because many places water's everywhere. It's just we're so used to getting it from one source through from the water company, and then we have the electricity to pump it in. So during any kind of disaster, we have problems with this. But you can always have like you were saying, a backup tank with water. You can have You can just have like a pallet of bottled waters ready for an emergency. You can have You can have a bunch of dirty water in a trash can or something outside. It doesn't matter because you can also another important thing is the ability to either boil water or to you can purify it with a filter, which filters are not that expensive. You can have a gravity water filter for $20. Not that expensive at all. You can, I mean, Eros, you have a camping water filter that you bring camping. It's
I take that everywhere.
yeah.
It's in my backpack. It's part of my daily carry. Uh, that and tablets to purify water. The something as simple as the little iodine tablets. What are they called? Do you have a name for them?
I'm not sure the name. I do know that you can just use a couple drops of bleach in a gallon of water, and it will actually purify it. Won't get you sick, and it'll actually purify the water.
Yeah, but it bleach will kill bacteria, but it won't kill other parasites. Um, not
Yeah,
all.
it's not the best, but you can always use that in a pinch.
No, I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, but you can also boil the fucking water too. I mean, dude, I gotta be honest with you, man. Something bothered me about this. Dude, honestly, we've lived in fucking Florida for how many fucking generations, and this is ridiculous. This is the kind of shit that you hear all the time. People talking about water being the most important thing, and people still don't do it. Why are we focusing on running down the list of shit that people already heard for generations? I want to talk about people why people don't do it. What prevents people from people understand the concept of storing water. That's not something that's
Because no one talks about it.
alien
That's
to them.
why. If no one, if no,
So
no
talk about
one,
that. Why people don't even
no one talks about it unless there's some kind of disaster, and then it's all over the news. Oh, you got to get some bottled waters.
and
You
then
know.
everybody goes to the fucking store. They after the fucking hurricane, they buy 5 gallon jugs. They fill it up with water, just like we
Yeah.
did.
But we already talked about why people do this. We need to educate people. We need to get people thinking about this. That's the number one thing. Get them out of that mindset because even you and me, you and I, we grew up with city water. We had our water provided by a one corporation, one government-backed corporation. We had our electricity provided by one government corporation. So, a lot of people just don't think about this because it's in their day-to-day lives. They don't even think about this. So, this is what we're doing. We're educating them. We're bringing it to the forefront of their minds so that they can think about it and they can prepare themselves. You there? Shit. I'm just gonna keep talking. Looks like Eros has dropped off here. I'm just gonna keep
No, no,
talking.
no. I'm back.
Okay, you're back. Yeah. So, Eros? Is there anything else you want to add about water, about potable water, and how people can prepare to make sure that they have that for a few days at least?
Distilling water. Um, I think that a lot of people don't really understand how simple of a concept distilling water is. We all know that boiling water, will eliminate most not contaminants, but bacteria, uh, disable most viruses, right? Pretty much make it.
Excuse me.
Boiling water makes it drinkable, right? We all kind of know that. I actually remember hearing something about leaving water in a plastic clear container. You leave it out in the sun for a certain amount of time. I think it was a decent amount of time. You have to leave it out for a few hours, but the the sun would essentially disinfect the water. I think that there are so
Yeah,
many ways.
the UV rays will kill a lot of bacteria and viruses. Um, so yeah, they even have UV light that you can UV water
The filter.
filtration devices that you can
Yeah.
use to
No,
do
I've seen
that.
those.
The problem with boiling water is that most of the time your power, the reason why you don't have water is because your power is out. So, but there are other ways to get around it, of course, like having some kind of maybe propane camp stove or the ability to build a fire in the backyard or
Yeah.
something like that. But probably the easiest is to just you know pack a whole bunch of just have a tank or something of some kind of water that you can have, or have the ability with a water filter, which is you know very easy. They have the Berkey water filters, which is actually the one of the more expensive brands, but you can have one of those. There's just you just pour the water in and it filters it, and then you drink it. So you can get water out of a pond, out of a lake, out of rainwater, whatever you want, and that's real easy. Um,
Real quick,
yeah,
uh, everyone should own a water filter. I see no reason why uh, water filter shouldn't be something that it's in your home as ubiquitous as a washing machine or a dryer. Uh, they're cheap. Uh, there's compact ones you can carry. There's shit you can hook up to the sink. Water filter is by far the most important thing because we live in Florida, man. We have an abundant water supply. We can go to a fucking lake. We can choose from a number of lakes that are within walking distance. But I guess if you live in other parts of the country, there's areas where you can just walk to a fucking lake and filter water. Um, but if you have the ability, to get to a water source, a filter is a necessity. You obviously don't want to drink the water straight, but in your home, I think the most important thing is to have a tank, a water tank. Um, but understand the different ways that you can treat water to make it drinkable, um, store water for long periods of time. Because I guess you can't just take water and even if it's distilled water or water that's been treated, um, like most things, there's a certain amount of time that you can keep the water before it actually starts to become, uh, well, not toxic, but just you know filled with bacteria. I hate to use the word rancid because I don't know. Can you use that word for water?
I
Rancid.
don't know. I don't know.
But no,
Fuck if
I
I know.
mean, but the bottom line is that it's really just to learn different ways to acquire water and treat water. I've actually seen some videos to show people how to make a well. If uh, if you live near an aquifer or an area that has water somewhere in the ground that's near the surface. I mean, obviously you're not going to drill down a quarter mile to reach some kind of water source, but
Yeah, you could dig down like 3 or 4 feet in some areas, and you can reach the water table and be able to get water out, and then at that point, put it through your filter. There's of course, catch rainwater, and even, you know, I've never used one myself, but there are even solar solar distillers, water distillers that I've seen them for like 30, $40. Or you can build one if you want that will actually distill salt water, seawater, and you could make as much water as you need out of that. Sometimes people have them on the sailboats, and they never have to do without they don't have to they can be out on the sea for a long period of time because they can distill the seawater, and they have actually solar distillers for cheap now that will do that.
are you talking about the ones that They act like a solar stove, and they
Yeah, yeah. I've seen ones that retail for like 30, $40, and you can buy them. I've never used one, but you know, it's
no,
just it's a very easy thing to be. It's such an important thing, but it's very cheap and very easy to be prepared for, and that's why it's the number one thing that you should know if you want to prepare for things.
yeah. Well, in this entire bullshit about water shortage, when you can when you can easily take salt water and distill it uh, a number of different ways. You know, like you said, you know, you can use the sun uh, and have a solar. What would you call it? Solar distiller,
Yeah,
right? Well, and not everybody lives near the ocean or near a saltwater source. But I think really the most important things, obviously, right, and learning how to treat water, how to store water, and making a plan depending on where you live to really just I don't know decide the best way to provide water in an emergency. Uh, Again, Florida, even though we have water sources, most of the time you don't want to even uh, you don't want to drink out of a pond or a lake. Most of these lakes here are part of irrigation systems that act as uh, drains for uh, the roads and the fields that are fucking contaminated with pesticides and all kinds of shit. So even the water that's in our lakes, these aren't lakes. Most of these places here in Florida, man, they're retention ponds. They're man-made, and their purpose is to uh, pull water away from other areas to dry them out, or to just control water flow. But the problem is that most of that shit, man, is contaminated with everything that we have on the roads. Um, they're all interconnected. So even here, man, I wouldn't want to filter water from a water source. I would prefer to have a tank first, then, of course, and have a water filter, and then be able to filter my water. Well, once I run out of water, in a situation where shit. Hold on a minute, dude. Can you hold on a second, man?
yeah.
Somebody at the door. Hold on. There was nobody there, man. That was weird.
Were you hearing shit?
Probably. Well, anyways, you have shelter before food. I mean, obviously, shelter is important, but food.
Yeah. Let me go through it, and then we can discuss it. There's actually shelter is not is not really up for discussion. Everybody already knows shelter. I mean, there's nothing to discuss on it.
I mean, that's the same with water, though, man. I mean, I find it difficult to talk
No,
about
no,
water.
no, no, man, no. Water is much more important and much more. Everyone, everyone is so used to having their water just pumped in, or they just go down to I'll just go down to 7-Eleven and buy a bottle of water. And if people don't have those, then they freak out. So they're so dependent. They're very dependent. Shelter, people know that. Yeah. You need if you're outside, you need some fucking shelter. I mean, it's very easy. If you're outside in below zero weather, you know you're gonna die if you don't if you don't fucking get some shelter. You're gonna
Yeah,
fucking die. So everyone knows if you're out in the blistering heat, you're probably gonna die of sunburn and dehydration if it's 110 degrees in Death Valley or some
But
shit.
about water, man. Do you know that most of the people that I talk to about when I tell people that I built a still and that I distill my own water, most people don't understand the concept of distillation. It's a real simple concept that even survival books show you, and they try to explain. But even in a survival situation, anybody reading these books, I think a lot of people try to follow the instructions, but still don't understand the concept of distillation, which is weird because it's such a simple thing that people need to understand. It's fucking boiling water. You evaporate water, leave everything else behind, and then you capture the water. This is something that I think that when it comes to water, three things: understanding what distillation is, because when you don't have shit, when you don't have a water tank, and you're in a survival situation, because this can apply to when the shit hits the fan. And for example, if you don't have a home, if you don't have a shelter, you're in a situation where you have to provide water, and you have very few materials. You don't have shit, right? The basic understanding of what distillation is important. But dude, most people don't understand what it means to distill something. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on.
All right, I'm sorry, man. All right.
You just took like 5 minutes to say that most people don't know what distilled water means.
Well, because it's important for people to understand how to distill water. It's one of the.
Well, not really. They don't need to know how to distill water. They need to know how to purify water, which is there are about 5 easier ways than having a distiller.
By having a water filter that's produced in a factory or by someone. Distilling water is something that you can do without anything that needs to be produced in a factory or anything that needs to be made. It can be something that you can fucking rig in any situation, man. It's really next to bottling water from some source that you find that you consider to be safe. It's the next best thing is to distill water. The next safest thing. Even boiling water. I mean, like you said, if you don't have the ability to, if you don't have anything to burn, if you don't have the means to produce fire, you don't have the ability to produce fire, you can distill water with a bag, some rocks, in the sun. The concept of distilling water, I think, is important. All right, so for most people, for most people who live a normal 9 to 5, house, 2 kids, water tank, right?
Yeah.
You live out in Florida, water tank, water filter, great. But still important is the idea in the understanding how to distill water from any source. That means, if you need to distill your piss, or you need to distill salt water. In other words, from any water source, if you know the basics of distilling water, you can produce water from any water source, anything that contains water. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a filter. Bro, a filter ain't gonna do shit. If you have a water filter, it ain't gonna do shit for salt. Salt's gonna get right through.
So like Bear Grylls, like shit, like Bear Grylls, you can drink your own piss.
Yeah.
Didn't he drink his own piss on a fucking survival show?
Directly, man, but you would. The thing that I'm trying to get at is that we're talking about being prepared, and we're talking about being prepared for any situation. I mean, and not any situation. I mean, we want to be able to we want to appeal to a broad audience, right? We want to be able to talk to extremists that want to learn how to distill water, but you also want to be able to appeal to somebody who lives in a city and they just want to learn how to prepare for maybe a week or two of a situation. I understand that, but it's kind of ridiculous to only explain something half-assed to somebody. You know what I mean? When something as simple as the concept of distillation can be explained in a matter of 2 minutes. You know what I mean? And any fucking frog can understand it. But you know what I mean. But nobody. But why is it that when I try to talk to people about distilling, nobody understands what the fuck I'm talking about? They look at me like I'm fucking,
All
some.
right, Arrows, come on, man. Come on, man. Focus. Let's get this shit done.
All right, all right, all right.
You're talking about how you hate people and how to distill when they can just go on
I'm
you.
getting bitter, man, because honestly, I feel like this is um working
This is
back.
the introduction. It's the introduction. It's the basics. You know, we're trying to get people interested, and we're trying to get describe to people why they need to know some of this stuff. If we get too technical, if we start to get too technical and describe everything, they're just gonna tune out. You know, that's my viewpoint. You just just a basic overview of things as they need to worry about. And they can, people if people worry about it, how long did it take you to learn how to distill something? Like what? Like an hour looking on YouTube or something?
All right,
So first you got to get them interested. If you don't get them interested, none of it matters. They're you know they're you can do a short video on how to distill water, and that's great. But no one's going to look at it if they don't understand the importance of prepping. So that's what we're doing. Is the show is to make people understand the importance of prepping and what they need to know to prep.
yeah, but I
So
mean, do you think that we covered the importance of prepping to get people interested enough to even follow us far enough to talk about water?
I don't know. I think so. We probably had some good bits in there.
All right,
Some provocative bits that we
all
put
right.
in
So
there.
how about you,
Because
Lee, man? Just ask me questions, man, or you tell me what to do. 'Cause
well, I'm just saying, man, this is gonna be fucking. I mean, this is we already got over like 2.5 hours, I think, and it's like
you gotta edit it.
it's
I
gonna
know.
take me like 5 hours to edit this shit.
Well, no, you can go through, man, and just first you need to go through and just edit out anything that when we're talking like this. Just you don't need to watch this shit.
I
You
know,
need to
I
watch
know.
it.
Yes, I do. I have to watch every second of it. Otherwise, how am I gonna know? How am I gonna know if it's nonsense or not? I have to watch every second of it, and then I have to go through again, and then I have to try to see what will fit with what we're talking about and what won't, and then I have to look at the time and see, okay, well, do we have time to go through all of this, or should I cut some of this? So,
All right. Go ahead. Go ahead. We'll get through it.
um, okay, well, number one is potable water, of course. Number two, I put shelter. Number two, because it would be important, especially if in situations, bad weather, freezing weather, stuff like that. But everyone already knows how to prepare for that, so I'm not going to dwell on that. Another thing is food. Uh, People can only last a couple days without water. Food, you can last a long, long time. You can last months without food. Your average fat ass American can last months without food. However, you're not going to be very productive, or you might get sick. You're not going to be healthy not eating. So within a couple days, you probably should be eating something. So your average person for prepping, you should at least at the very least have a few days worth of food uh, saved up. And that is probably one of the easiest things besides having some water stored or some water filters. Having food stored up is probably the easiest thing, because what you do is you just, whenever you go to the store, you can buy food, non-perishable food, like canned food, cans of tuna, cans of vegetables, whatever, rice, beans, powdered milk, things like that. You can save that for years. So what you want to do is just every time you go to the store, just get a few extra things and put them away. So your average person that's not a prepper, so to say, but at least you want to be prepared for some kind of short-term emergency. You need at least a couple days. Now, most preppers will prep for a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year, or even more of food supply. And I don't think that's crazy at all. I mean, look, imagine there was a scenario where you lose your job, and and people say, "Oh, well, but what about food stamps and welfare?" Yeah, well, what if that can't go on forever, and the gravy train can't go on forever. So you're not always going to have that there. So you want to have some backup there, some food that you can eat in a situation. It doesn't cost that much, and it's not hard at all to store. You can store a whole bunch of canned goods in the back of your pantry. So I think that's very important. You can have the canned food, the MREs, which is the military. This is the stored food the military uses,
Meals ready.
and just rice and beans. So what would Eros? What would you say is important for people to know as far as food storage?
Planning. I think for most people, space is a consideration. Um, you want to plan for 3 months, a family of three. That's a lot of food, man. Not everybody can do that, uh, especially when you have things that perishable goods. Even canned goods go bad, man. Uh, but planning out what to eat, you know, having good high protein food stuff like peanut butter, um, fish, salmon, tuna. Uh, but I think the most important thing is people need to know that they're gonna to rotate food. Uh, Even canned goods go bad, so buy things that you're gonna eat, so that when it comes time to buy fresh food, you're eating the old stuff. You need to rotate because, um, yeah, you can eat a can that's been expired for a few years, but you may not want to risk it. You know what I'm saying? Um, Rice, beans. There's certain things that last a long time. I've actually just started eating a bag of rice that I've had in here for about 5 years, uh, and it's okay. Uh, Understanding how to preserve certain foods, that's important too, man. What do you want to talk about though? You want to talk about how to store food, or what kind of foods to actually buy? Because I've actually done some reading on this, man.
Yeah, go ahead if you wanna talk about the. I mean, right now we're just talking about for basically
Consideration.
short term considerations and uh, what you could do. What kind of what kind of food would be a good thing to know? What kind of um, things that last the longest, maybe things that are easiest for people to just to stock up on.
I think people should buy what they normally eat. If you're not a big fan of corn, you wouldn't go out and buy cans of corn. If it's not gonna get eaten, it's it's not gonna get you're not gonna be able to rotate it when when you go. Hold on a minute. Sorry, Jay, man. I'm already drunk.
See,
I
this is
know,
my
man.
problem, man.
I'm sorry, man. You warned me.
See, I knew it.
You're not even fucking drinking though either, man. All right, yeah. Let me just talk to you, and then maybe you can find something in these.
Hey, is hold on. Is my face coming up here when I talk? Because it's like not fucking like on my screen. My
My
face isn't
sister
coming.
says Jason.
Is my but is my face showing when I talk?
Yeah,
Is your face showing when you talk?
my face is showing at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
See, I don't know because I don't know if our faces are showing because before when we were talking, whenever I would talk, my face would pop up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now it's not doing that.
You can switch it back and forth, man.
But yeah, but it should automatically switch. It's not automatically switching anymore. That's what I'm saying. It's not
Oh,
automatically switching.
I've never seen that. I never seen that happen on my end. You're
Well,
the
actually,
host.
the last, you know what I did? I clicked on it, and somehow I think that maybe changed it somehow, but
Well, you're
I
the
don't know
host.
how to.
You're recording, so I think that you would see that. I wouldn't see that. I've never seen that, even when we were recording before.
Well, when we were recording before, there were some sections where I was talking, but it was still on you, and I don't know exactly.
You know what it could be? It could be me. It could be that my computer is picking up your voice as me. I have you on speaker. Let me do an experiment real quick. Hold on.
Yeah, that could be.
Let me put on some headphones.
I thought it was me because I clicked on it.
I want to put on some headphones and see if it happens again.
Okay. Okay, so
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you fine.
I
Yeah.
don't hear you yet. Hold on.
You don't hear me?
Switch it.
Can you hear me now? 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 Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Okay.
Okay. Why don't all right, say something.
Beer. I need some more beer.
It's not switching to you. How about here? I'm gonna go ahead and stop the broadcast. It should, and then start another one. And then we'll go through this
When
the
was
short.
the last time it was doing it?
It was a while back. It's when I clicked on something and then, you know, but it was on you. You were talking most of the time. It was on you most of the time. So, man, that's
All right.
cool.
You gonna close it out?
Yeah, I'm gonna close it out and then open it again real quick. Ready?
All right, well, I'm gonna go get right. We'll come back and do this shit.
What do you mean, get right?
Relax. I'm gonna get right.
All right, all right.